Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And again, I'd like to repeat, this is the June 25th, 2020 Dyer Town Council meeting. May I have a roll call, please?
Here.
Here. Here. Present.
Here. Next, we have announcements. Do we want to read, Frank, how people leave their comments?
Given the nature of the meetings that are being conducted and through live stream, any public comments that a resident wishes to make should be made by email to publiccomments@townofdyer.com. It is also listed that email address at the bottom of your screen as you're viewing this video. Please do so, and at the appropriate time in the meeting, they will be read and entered into the record and responded to as appropriate.
Thank you. And the announcements, the town offices will be closed on Friday, January 3rd, 2020, in observance of Independence Day. July 3rd. What did I say, June?
January.
Well, I'll take January. July 3rd, 2020, in observance of Independence Day. In old business, we have a stop sign study for Great Lakes Drive area. Town manager, can you please fill us in a little bit?
You have the engineer's analysis. Mr. Simstead's here. The recommendation is you don't install the stop signs. That's how it's presented to you.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
No, I'd like to make a motion to install 2 stop signs at the required locations recommended by the chief of police, and at least one number on the town council, maybe 2.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Do we have those addresses for the discussions for the record?
Yes, we do.
They were,
It's Great Lakes Drive and Saturday
Saturday
Evening
evening.
Post.
And
That's
Rockwell.
one.
yes,
We'll have to prepare an ordinance.
okay.
Bill, that you did the research on this? You have anything to add?
We prepared a report based on the guidance documents for the relevant NUTCD, and they are guidance, and there's criteria, and we reviewed that criteria and that's made as part of the report. But it is guidance document, and it is content said, you guys don't rule that.
Okay.
Accept it, and that is the result of the guidance document following a review with Jeff and Public Works, who accounts for us, providing those for our analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, do you have anything to add?
No, the Saturday evening in Great Lakes Drive one is the one that we took a look at and recommended that it would assist with pedestrian crossing in that area, as was forwarded to us to look at.
Okay, any other discussion, Steve, Eric?
No, I think we've talked about this for quite a long time, and I know myself, I went out there for many weeks and looked at every intersection, and the only one I could find besides the Great Lake one that our chief found was this other one, which is the 2nd Street in behind Jewel, and it just seems to be where the speed up area is. It's a long ways before they hit anything that'll slow them down.
Okay, Eric,
Nothing further to add.
Alan,
No, nothing further.
Bob?
No.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we would get ordinances
We'll have
pertaining
an
to,
ordinance for you at the July meeting and we'll get the stop signs coming up.
okay. Next item on the agenda is the installation of traffic calming on Deer Creek and Flagstone.
For the engineer's report that you got, you saw at the work study, this is just on there to so that it's a documented action. We'll order the sign. It's about 50 days roughly to get them. So humps.
Okay, do you need a motion?
We need a motion
For-
to authorize. Let's call it for you changing the traffic.
Okay, but you, according to the ordinance?
Well, this is the acquisition, then you'll adopt the ordinance down below.
The ordinance is the
Okay.
penalty for
All right.
violation.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've discussed this an awful lot. Anybody have any input?
No, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the study and move forward with the speed bumps, installation, and the signs that are needed and associated with it.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
I'm in favor of the speed bumps, but I just think that 6 is too many. 6 and 5 is too many. I think we should start out conservatively, and if we have issues, we could always add them. But once they're there, they're going to be there.
Looking at the, according to the guidelines for those speed humps, that they recommend a spacing of 260 to 500 feet in order to keep speeds within the 85th percentile. At Deer Creek, where there will be 6, that will be approximately 436 feet apart. At Flagstone, where there'll be 5, that'll be 475 feet apart. So we're already bumping up against the outer limit of the recommendation from the manufacturer of 500 feet. So I'm in favor of the 6 on Deer Creek and the 5 on Flagstone.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Other than to say, I support this, other than to say, we should probably be prepared for other subdivisions to come and ask. I know somebody at 509 Northgate that will be raising their hand shortly for some on Northgate. So
I
that's
think
all I
someone
have
on
to say.
Northgate would probably want the road finished first.
Baby steps. So that's all I have.
Yeah,
We're gonna prepare a
Yeah.
policy for you, but
Right.
it's really gonna be, it sounds like it's gonna be based on the request.
Right.
As opposed to any scientific research over zealous speeding or anything else, because that wasn't the case here. Putting them in is purely your decision, and that's certainly within your purview. But you're gonna end up with those requests, so you gotta decide how you're gonna approve them or turn them down.
Right. Do we have any sort of, I know that the HOA had something. You didn't, somebody said that some information was passed out by the HOA. Not true? Ah, interesting.
All the petitions have been generated by a group of residents, not from the HOA.
Okay.
As far as I
that's
can recall.
Interesting
going way
to
back
find out. Okay, I just
16.
was trying to figure out if there were people who really didn't agree with that, or, what their concerns were.
Oh, there were.
There were.
Decisions been made.
Okay, all righty. Well, we have a motion and a second. We've discussed it. We have a roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Next on the agenda, we have ordinances and resolutions, and this is resolution number 2020, an ordinance amending certain sections of Town Code section pertaining to speed humps.
Madam President, this simply sets the speed limit for 100 feet for the speed bump, for the speed bump, and 100 feet after it. And Tom and I talked about the appropriate speed, and I think that is something we'll have to look at as we go along here to see if it works or it doesn't.
Okay,
I'll make a motion that we accept ordinance 2020-05, an ordinance amending certain sections of Town Code Section 8 pertaining to speed humps
On first reading.
on first reading.
I'll second that motion.
okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Well, I'll entertain a
Motion.
motion to suspend the rules and approve ordinance number 2020-05 on second reading.
Motion to suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 2020-05 on second reading.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. That's the end of ordinances and resolutions. Next, we have new business and insurance.
We have another ordinance,
I'm sorry,
salary ordinance.
That's right. 2020-06, amending the 2020 salary ordinance.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 2020-06, amending the 2020 salary ordinance.
2019-14, establishing the salaries, wages, and compensation for the town of Dyer, Lake County, Indiana for the year 2020. That's what you said.
That's what I said.
On first reading.
On first reading.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Aye.
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 Aye. I would need a motion to suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 2020-06 and ordinance amending ordinance 2019-14, establishing the salaries, wages, and compensation for the town of Dyer, Lake County, Indiana for the year 2020
So
on second
moved.
reading.
I'll make that motion as read off by Councilwoman and President.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Next, we have new business and insurance waiver requests for the park comment, or for the park concert. Do we have some information on that, Mr. Town
Well,
Manager?
the group doesn't have their own insurance. It's just a community group. And this is just acknowledging that you're accepting they don't have to supply the waiver.
Our regulations require that they have an insurance policy unless it's waived by the town. We checked with our insurance carrier and they're covered, the town's covered for anything that happens with this group. Mike and I talked about this a couple weeks ago and we checked with the insurance carrier about it.
So it's just simply a documentation.
Okay. Do we have, but there's insurance for the rest of the event, is that correct?
Well, the town has
We have our own liability.
Well, that's what I'm
General
asking.
liability.
Just to make
Us
sure.
In the event something happened and we got sued.
Okay, I had another question too. These are all craft kinds of things that we're gonna have. We don't have any food going on
Just a concert.
for the event?
This is just a concert.
That's
yeah.
just
I mean,
a
it's not
concert.
really- it's not
Okay.
really Ours.
Okay.
concert, I mean, we're just hosting it.
We're just allowing them to use the
Use
space.
the park space.
Okay.
Which requires the insurance certificate unless you waive it.
I'll make a motion that we grant the certificate of insurance waiver to Lyrical Strings to allow them to perform a free concert on August 1st, 2020.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Do we have any comments coming in for citizen input?
We have not received any comments at publiccomments@townofdyer.com as of this moment.
Okay. Do we have any citizen input? Yes.
I got a conflict of interest today, Indiana Code 35-44-1-1-4 from Jeff Decker on our utility board, that he works for River Construction as an employee.
We need a motion to
No,
accept
there's
it.
no
Okay,
action
okay.
necessary.
Just have to announce it in the public meeting.
Just required.
Any more citizen input? Yes.
I was curious, Tom, did you want to bring up the issue we spoke about earlier regarding the railroad and bridge?
You can bring it out. I figured we could kind of sidebar what we're gonna do next.
Unfortunately, we have a new contract for Enbridge that is for the Norfolk Southern Railroad that we're looking to put the trail in with their city and our logo there. And our new contact that we reached out to at Enbridge said essentially the same as the last one, that we understand what you're looking to do and we can't do anything to help you in the project. Between the emails I sent to Norfolk Southern, I know Steve has, and Tom has, we've received nothing back. Maybe it needs to move something on Bill's end, but I'll do it. I don't be aware of the.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Let me just add something. I have been in contact with the General Regional Counsel for the railroad that was provided with that name and address and have explained the situation, and I do not have an answer yet.
There's our sidebar.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We better discuss it. So,
And we just received a public comment.
Okay.
Look at your screen there.
From Pat Patinia. She wanted to know what happened at court this week, Tuesday, 6/23, with the property at 100 Chateau Drive. Did the homeowner show up? What are the plans going forward with enforcement of making this a livable home with a family? Thank you.
I might, Madam President, state this, that an initial hearing on Tuesday when we had our ordinance call.
Yes.
And there is now set for trial the third Tuesday in August in the Superior Court County Division 2 at 4 o'clock.
Okay. So we would look forward to that. But I know we have a lot of citizens in Chapel Woods that are looking at that as well. No more citizen input. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
President, if I could just add one thing.
Yes.
Recognition for some hard work that was done. Dyer and Bloom has worked hard to work on the outside of the public safety building. Both Pats and yourself have worked hard to make the outside as beautiful as it is. And,
Nanette.
yes. Thank you. And we just want to give some public recognition. A lot of hard work to maintain all those flowers out there. We appreciate it.
Thank you. But I
Thank
think
you.
with all the construction that's going on, it's nice to see that there are flowers blooming and it looks nice. So thank you.
And
Yes, sir.
I would like to also recognize Dyer Police Department. On our street, we've had a tough year with the storms. We were out of power all day and all night till 5 a.m.
Today?
Yes, not this, 2 weeks ago, I believe it was.
Ah.
And if you ever go down our street, it's a very long street, dead end. When the lights were out, it was dark. Couldn't even see to the middle of the street. I texted our chief and he asked if everything was okay. And he assured me that we'd have extra patrols. And I swear within seconds, we had police on at the end, one in the middle, having the lights on.
Good.
Reassuring all our neighbors, and they continue to come to our neighborhood. During the evening, I've got a lot of thank yous from our neighbors. So I just wanted to reach out and tell all officers a special thank you for me. It makes myself, my family, and the neighbors feel much secure.
Yeah.
And one more, I have some friends, young friends, that were very active in a lot of the protests, a good protest. And then the Black Lives Matter group, and I know they did a little thing and talked to our police chief. They had nothing but nice things to say about our chief in our town of Dyer, saying that they felt welcome here and were able to exercise their constitutional rights with no problem, and everything went well. So we can all be proud that we have a great community. We're looking to be even better in our diversification, because that's our strength. And as our town grows, I hope everyone grows with it. So thank you.
Anyone else? We have a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll
Second,
second the motion.
voice vote, please. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We will continue on with the redevelopment commission meeting. Again, if we have any comments, would you please send them in? In old business, we have 2 items. We have the fire station number 2, the change orders number 2 and 3. You have it before you.
These are just going to be proposed change orders, tell you, kind of keep you in the loop as to what we were. I didn't know if I was
Okay.
going to have the act.
Okay,
The upgrade in the lighting you've approved. We lowered the stone based on the conversation before. We got a credit for that. The other one was undercutting some bad soil, so that's an add. So on the back, we're starting to run a tab on where we're at.
okay, so this is just information
It's
only.
just FYI, you'll have the change orders when we actually get them.
Okay. Do we have any citizen input for redevelopment? Any comments?
We've not received any comments at publiccomments@townofdyer.com.
Okay, we have a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor, voice vote.
Aye.
Thank you. That was good.
Record.
Nice and quick.
Okay, so-
Next, we have a work study agenda. First of all, we have a response to Bob Starkey's email. You have that before you.
Well, we'd like to take an opportunity to, as we go through these items. And the first one, the communication issue, is the website and some other things. Frank's got some things we want to show you what we're
Okay.
doing. I think that'll answer some of the questions, hopefully, more we'll proceed.
Essentially, starting with the website, that's something that we've been rebuilding, and we began rebuilding actually before we had the Talo implementation. And we started rebuilding a site on that on a particular platform, and we're integrating some of the Talo components into it and some other different services. That one ended up getting a little more complicated in terms of the architecture and its efficiency for what we were trying to do with it. So many months ago, we decided to abandon that and rebuild a different platform. And then, of course, likewise, a different site. And we're nearing completion of that right now, building in different integrations for the Tyler applications that we originally intended, which were some online and mobile applications. In the interim, Tyler had come out with a new product or had gotten a product up to sufficient level of maturity that integrates with their back-end softwares that we're using, as well as with the interfaces that we are building into. And one of the things that motivated us to build some additional interfaces into the new website. Previously, we had online services, desktop online web-based services with a couple different mobile apps that they had. The application I'm talking about is more of a broader, overarching, basically citizen engagement application that takes into account the applications we're previously looking at, plus some additional applications as well. And so what I'm going to show right now is just kind of give you an idea. This is an example site. This is their sample site. And this is the one that we're currently pursuing. And you can see it up on your screen here. And essentially, this again is a sample of that technology and that interface. And this could become, there's a number of different layouts that you can do with this, and different images and photos and all sorts of different things you can populate on this. But again, the idea is to show you the application in general. The first example there just shows a COVID update. Basically, anything can take a link to a given site. Okay, if that's what we're looking to do for a event-specific situation where we want to populate it for it and make it prominent. Some of the other content that we typically see, like again, you see a simpler application interface. Now, I should mention with the website, the purpose of the website, basically rebuilding that, was to create a mobile-friendly, what they call responsive website, as well as make it accessible and update the look and feel. But as part of that, it functions on mobile devices and is able to navigate much easier than a site that wasn't built for that. That being said, nothing works as well on a mobile device as an application built specifically for it. And this again is an application specifically for iOS, as well as one for Android. So again, the simplicity of it, again, if you bring that up here, you can basically see some of the basic information that you're looking for just by tapping through a few things simply to get, again, phone numbers, emails, contact information, giving the things that residents might typically look for in most common situations, and make it easily accessible and navigable. So you get that same kind of content in there, as well as things like the news itself. Now the news and the calendaring stuff, and this comes back to the interfaces that we have on this. This actually draws from feeds from our own website. So we put the event there and it shows up here. Yeah. So that, one of the things that we look at, even in doing the regular website, is the more difficult it is to get information on there. The fewer people that are putting information on there, the less likely it is to get done. So again, we see that's how this piece works here. So there also it collates the social networking pieces. So if, again, there's a number of Facebook pages, Twitter, so forth that you have. And again, it collates those into the social media component of the news. And that other media could be videos. An example here, it could be, videos of meetings that we've had, right? And it could be really any other video. But again, it makes it easily accessible to get it in a few taps off of the app. And again, the information is coming from different sources. So we're not necessarily having to have a person sit there and maintain and keep this, again, the easier this is to do, the more ways we can push information out to multiple platforms. Obviously, the fresher it's going to be and the more informative it's going to be. Like Parks and Recs types of stuff. In this example here, again, it just shows where all the facilities at. Some of the things that you would imagine. I could stop at any point if you want, but again, this is just example data that's in here. Paying bills, not just for, but does include utility billing. It's got the utility billing interface in this application, so you can bring it up. You can also do it online right now if you wanted to, but you can come in here, you can pull up a utility bill, you can view the actual bill itself, you can view the transactions, and you can make the payments as well, doing that from the application, as well as paying bills for other services that we're bringing online, like building permits and things of that nature that can also be paid this way. And as well, we're moving towards park registrations and other types of items. And there's something that we'll be looking at next month in terms of the Park and Rec component of Tyler. And I think, that'll be a separate subject to look at. But again, that also integrates into this, again, trying to bring all these different pieces together to make it obviously easier and simpler for the residents to work with. Business directory, again, you can choose how that's implemented, how that's not implemented. Those are always a challenge to who's in there and how are they in there and so forth. But again, maybe something off the business licensing thing where they can enroll and have a presence in this particular application, make it easier for people to get to stuff of that type. Report an issue. Again, this is, and again, but if you look up here, it's an example of some of the items in here. We've been in the process right now of implementing here, hopefully finishing up the next couple months, implementation of what we call the enterprise asset management system for the town as a whole. It has a work order system for the entire town, internally as well as externally. So they have this app called Tyler 311, which is an online app for citizens to do the reporting. And then also there was a separate mobile app to do that. This basically takes the place of that. This is their mobile app, and this feeds the resident reporting in there. And without going through an example, you go in there, it can ask you some additional questions on, like say if there's a street light issue, is it out? Is somebody going to pole? This type of thing. You can take the picture, and then of course you can send it in, and it comes into our work order management system, a regular EAM, and gets routed accordingly based on the type of issue that it is. And then of course you can decide what level of feedback you want to provide or not. But again, it comes back into our systems that are already being established right now. So it has the workflow to get that done to completion. And there's a lot of other elements that go into the EAM, which I'm just not going to get into right now. But again, it interfaces with that from the public facing side. Surveys is an example there where obviously you can put surveys into those as well. One thing you can't see here is push notifications. You can do push notifications to know when it has the application. And it also has push notifications with geofencing. So they put their addresses in there. Obviously, you can target certain areas. Again, assuming they registered for the application itself. Push notifications work in general as long as they have the app. If we want to have them in geofence, then they would register for the app. So these are just a handful of different things that it can do. We can add more features and functions to this. But again, it seems like a great citizen engagement, centralized citizen engagement application that the residents can use that's bringing information from multiple sources. And also obviously permits additional notifications, push notifications like I mentioned, plus easy access to the rest of the content that we have. So, and these mobile applications have become increasingly popular. I mean, even if the website's mobile friendly and you want it to be mobile friendly, because again, some of the stuff you have on here may not be in the application. So you'll take them to a web link on your website. So you want that to render well, and they can read it and work with it, navigate it. But again, in my experience, it's never been a substitute for actually also having an application, given as many different services we provide and all the different communications we have. It seems like it would be, in my opinion, a vital thing to have. So this is the course that we're currently on. And I don't know if the council has any thoughts on that, any changes in direction on that. Basically, if we move forward with this, we're looking at about the 45 to 60 day timeline to implement this. And we would like to implement the site, roll out the site and the citizen engagement app at the same time. So we can kind of just put them out there together.
Frank, do we have any examples? Are there any cities or towns around us or in Indiana that use it?
Yeah, I can send you examples. Yeah,
okay.
I can send it. There's a number of them that are using the applications throughout the country.
Not necessarily this specific one, but
okay.
Apps are fairly common.
Yeah. So if you want to see that, and what we've looked at different applications through the year. At one point, we're like, well, we'll just use the mobile friendly website, but it just doesn't really, again, you want the mobile friendly website, but it just doesn't seem to provide as much functionality and ease of use that the residents are looking for. Not to mention things like push notifications, that type of stuff. Then there's been other applications, other vendors that have approached us where they do some advertising, but they'll put your stuff on there. City by Up is an example, and nothing against them, but again, it's kind of there's conflicting purposes in my opinion when we use that type of thing. And also, it doesn't integrate with what we have. It doesn't integrate with the content on our site, and it certainly doesn't integrate with the services that we're providing, whether it's through permitting, animal licensing, utility billing, incident reporting, through the EAM. It integrates to those systems. So that simplifies the workflow. It's one thing to get it submitted, but it's to make sure you connect it to the workflow that's going to get it accomplished and get results for the resident. And this has that. And again, no app's perfect. This thing's evolving. One thing I can say about what they do and have been doing with Tyler Technologies is they absolutely have been spending a lot of money to bring these apps together. Even some suggestions that we've put, they've incorporated in their product. And I'm very skeptical of software companies, and I'll be skeptical of Tyler Technologies. But they're very large company, but they're also putting a lot of investment in R&D. That's why this application is continuing to evolve, but it already has many features that would work well with our system even today. And then we'll get more of them obviously tomorrow as they begin to, again, move these things and progress these things forward.
I know that they have been at the AIM conferences that I've been at, but it seemed like a lot of people were very interested and they were very knowledgeable about Tyler.
Yeah, they've been very aggressive, and
Yeah.
again, there's no panacea, perfect
Yeah.
solution to anything. There's a lot of different things to look at different companies, but the fact is they are progressive and they cover a lot of different areas of services that the town has, and it
Okay.
integrates those, and it's done at a relatively, reasonable price point, but they are stepping forward. Again, this particular item wasn't sure enough or evolved enough when we actually did our initial implementation, but it has since come out, so, but they have been doing that. A lot of companies say they're going to do that, but so far, that's been the case.
Yeah.
So I see this thing in all the different products going in a very positive direction.
Anybody else have questions?
I think it's great.
Yeah, I think an apps is absolutely essential. That's the
Yeah.
preferred method of that most people are using nowadays. What are some other companies that we could kind of compare the Tyler app to that are leading in the field?
Well, you got this, like I said, there's a City by app that's basically leading the fact that they're very popular and have a lot of installations. Okay. And actually we had talked to them originally looking at this different stuff. And there's also like another product by Dude Solutions that does stuff that does different kinds of incident management, tracking and mobile apps and these types of things. The benefit that Tyler has both is a good price point, I believe, with it, as well as it integrates with all the products on the back end. So, and it's not advertisement driven or anything of that nature, which I always consider a conflicting purpose, and again, you can pay to remove some of that, but again, it's not designed around our software platforms, which makes that part difficult to deliver those services seamlessly without a lot of effort on our part.
This is driven by us to provide information.
Yeah.
As opposed to somebody else looking to sell advertising. We're the second level. That's what you get when you get these ad-driven things. That's why and plus this one links back, and that's why 2-3 years ago, Frank said they didn't have this app to tie into their software.
Yeah.
And this app has been developed specifically for their use. I'm sure the person can modify it to somebody else. This is driven to integrate seamlessly with Tyler. And the other thing that we're working on is the parks program. We didn't delve into the parks program at the time because it wasn't ready. It's now ready, and we're now going to make that recommendation to go ahead and tie that loose piece up as we keep integrating everything. So at one point, we're going to have everything will be under the Tyler umbrella, which is good for us because there's no more finger pointing why something may not be working.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
And I guess the thing, the question I'd ask is if the council's comfortable proceeding forward with this particular plan, and that would include the Tyler My Civic app. I don't know if that's the case, then we can move forward with it. And like I said, that's about the implementation timeline that we're looking at. But if there's a concern over proceeding with them, then
No, I personally think that if it links up to the website, then that's the way to go.
Yeah, the website and their back-end technologies. And that's really what makes the biggest difference. I mean, and that's where none of the other products can truly compete against it. For that reason. It's going to make it a lot easier for us that, like we talked with the example of, incident reporting. It's obviously that we want people to be able to report an incident. But I've seen applications where it does that really well, except where does it go from there? And the fact that we can bring this into our workflow for incident management throughout the town, internal and external, has incredible value because then, it goes somewhere and it gets to somebody who can get it accomplished, versus it just sitting in an email somewhere because someone will put it into someone's email and, but we can workflow it. And of course, we can do anything with it. And that's just one example. I don't want to go too far off in the woods on that one, but we can attach everything from equipment and labor and all the kinds of different things that we may want to do. And then all the reporting that comes off of that. You get a lot of analytics on this, and we're not delving into that. There's a lot of back-end reporting, both through the application itself, as well as through the individual applications like the EAM stuff that services it. So you can get those business analytics. So you can get an idea of what types of things are being reported, how they're getting accomplished, and that, again, those different needs are being satisfied. So.
Bob, Alan?
I'm good.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
I think it's gonna get out.
Yeah.
The fingers out, what we talked about.
Right.
now.
Right.
Yeah.
Be excited to see this come online.
Yeah.
Next topic is
We
code
talked about,
enforcement.
what, 60 days, so when you think about it, you're looking at Labor Day, September 1st, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is something, I mean, this is the culmination of a gazillion conversations that Tom and I have had, and also with staff and so forth. So, but this is, we feel this is the solution, a
Good.
combination of these two things, the site and the app, to really engage properly and effectively.
Code enforcement.
I had brought this up just as I had a situation where I had a business owner call me, and they had some concerns that they had gotten some conflicting reports from what they could and couldn't do. And so I thought that was a good opportunity to kind of go into our process here. I know that we've got people call PD, people call the town hall, people call the treasurer's office. I'm sure people call all sorts of numbers to get their complaint or what they perceive as a code violation through. And it seemed like we had a couple different mouthpieces for that code enforcement. So I just want to make sure that we're speaking with one voice. We're telling everybody the same thing. We're not setting up. We told this business this, we told that business this. I think it's a good idea. One of the questions I put in there is, do we, at one time we had code enforcement not at PD, and now we have it with PD. I think there's value in having it with PD because, at the end, having
Originally was with PD.
then it went out.
Not a sworn
Yeah.
officer. It was then taken away from the PD and put to an individual code enforcement here at the town hall, and that wasn't very effective. So it was shifted back to the PD because I think at that time, the town council felt that uniform officer going out talking about code enforcement with a citizen was going to carry a lot more weight than just an individual doing it. However, my experience over the years is that code enforcement becomes a multifaceted enforcement issue because it runs across planning and zoning. It runs across all sorts of other things that we have, and some of them are directly related to what the police department enforces, and some of them are not. And I know that the primary two people that deal with it, Brian and Kelly at the police department, different areas. I know that I get calls all the time from Brian. Kelly calls me about what is and what isn't a violation. I don't know who else is giving them, direction about what.
What were the specifics, Bob, that you're talking about?
Oh, the fireworks place on
Right here?
yeah, with the tent.
That issue was brought to my attention.
Right.
And I answered the question that it was allowed.
Right.
But we needed to know the dates in which he wanted to put it up, the size of the tent and the location on the site. And that's the only information that was imparted to him. The other part of that was they had signs that were in violation of the town sign ordinance.
Right.
As we did a whole bunch of other places down 40,
Yes.
which I then asked Brian to look at so that he could then tell Kelly Carroll.
Right. So
I have a quick question. When Brian is out and he sees, for example, a sign violation, does he make contact with the business owner or does he just contact Kelly?
I suppose it's fact sensitive what the situation. Okay. I think with the fireworks, he made contact with the owner directly to see, because he didn't even have a sign.
Yeah.
Right. Went ahead and put the signs up and suggested he needed to conform to our ordinance and pay, get a sign permitted.
We had another,
And he didn't like the answer.
building code violations. We had the home lumber building doing work on the exterior of the building without a permit.
Yeah.
Which is not the first time that group has done that. So we told them, put a stop work order on it, stuff like that. I mean, part of the problem is it's hard for the inspectors to go out and inspect something we don't have a permit for, but
Yeah.
they're driving it around. And I think Brian and Kelly do a good job of coordinating. And this issue, that's why I wanted to know the specifics about this fireworks thing, because, you know, the problem with fireworks, it involves the fire department, police department.
Right.
Brian with zoning
Everybody.
and sign, it involves everybody, and it's like the worst 8 weeks of the year.
Right.
And,
True.
you know, we thought we were making some headway.
I would echo what you just said, though. I think there's a good working relationship among everybody of trying to get the data that's necessary to determine if there's a code back. I don't think it's just junk, at all. So, I know that the citizens oftentimes don't like the answers they get about what they can or cannot do. I know
Right.
that.
And sometimes the citizens that make the complaint don't like the answer if it isn't what they wanted to hear. Like, well, we really can't do anything about that. We can't take that building down, you know, that kind of stuff. It's not the area where you get high marks in by any stretch of the imagination.
I mean, for example, I don't even remember what the address was, but there's a home, what street was that on?
Knighthood?
No,
Yeah.
not Knighthood. Knighthood,
The Illinois Street one.
the Illinois Street property. It's an older home that doesn't look very good. But our ordinance doesn't allow us to tell somebody, you have to make it look better. If they have code violations or
Yeah.
health violations, we can do something about it. If it gets deteriorated to the point that it is reducing the value of surrounding properties, we can charge them with a nuisance violation with it. But in this situation, we have issued code violations for weeds and stuff like that. But, you know, somebody has a dilapidated porch on their property, it's not a code violation.
Since we're talking about code enforcement, I know we got an email this week from a resident complaining about the White Hen, the old White Hen property here. And I noticed there's like a 55-gallon drum and a tire that's been out there for more than a year. Can't we get any resolution, something to clean that property up?
We'll speak to the hospital.
If there's a violation of our code.
I can't
There's
imagine you
nothing
could
that
just keep a
prohibits somebody from
55.
having a tire sitting on your property. Or a 55-gallon drum.
I don't know what the 55-gallon drum has got in it. I mean, it's
Hopefully
commercial
nothing.
property. It's commercial property along there.
I mean, I understand what you're
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it just
Cleaned
looks
up.
chunky,
But
but
you go back behind some of the businesses, there's all kinds of stuff back there.
yes.
I mean, if they throw it behind the building, I'm fine with it, as long as I don't have to look at it.
I think the best approach. to that
Hopefully
is
it's,
get a hold
hopefully
of
the drum is
hospital
empty
ask
and not
them to
thinking
clean
some
it up.
toxic waste, you know?
I'm sure they will.
To go back to that, I don't mean to put Chief on the spot. How is code enforcement working for your team?
You know, it seems as if sometimes it's hard to control the outcome if you don't control the entry of the data and all that. I think when this initially started with the police officers, at least this second go around with it, it was deemed as a part-time, 50% of someone's workday. And throughout times of the year, it becomes 100%. And I think the demand increases and sometimes it's difficult to get that outcome that everybody desires when it's an officer that's also got other jobs. But it can work the way it's working and it can definitely improve. I think that workflow could definitely benefit if we all the stakeholders sat down and worked on start to finish on these projects. I think building department, zoning, and code enforcement, between the three of those, they should be able to answer any question that a resident or business has. And I think if they work together and figure out something that, so we're not repetitively answering the same person's questions, or if they're not shopping for different answers and trying to find.
Sure.
And that's the problem.
Yeah,
right
there you
I
go.
might say from a standpoint of ordinance violations, and I do them, for the town, over the last 2 years, we've had less code ordinance violations since the police department's been involved in it. And Kelly's approach is not to go out and hammer somebody. It's to go out and say, hey,
Fix it.
will you correct the situation and we'll come back.
Right.
One yesterday, that person was warned twice over a 2-month period of time and did not correct the situation. So they issued the citation. We tried it yesterday and the person received a fine and court costs.
And some of the remedies were handcuffed because some of them you have to send a notice of compliance and give them so many days to fix it.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about tall grass, you give additional 10 days
Yeah.
to comply, the grass goes from 2 foot
Yeah.
to 3 foot. And
Yeah.
then after they don't comply at that point, you issue one ticket. That doesn't mean the grass is cut. So a lot of times the remedy of the ticket isn't really what you want. Like Attorney Ensign said, you'd rather get compliance. Commander Carroll's a great person to work with them, gives them the amount of time that's due to fix the problem. But when there's those properties that are absolutely not going to listen to what you do, sometimes the court is going to tie that property up. Like you heard on this one, the trial, as you said, July?
August.
So in the meantime, the property is
Yeah.
kind of in limbo, so.
Well, but on that one, there's a special reason for it. And if the tickets were issued a long time ago, they were set in February, we would have had a trial
Right.
April on it. But because of COVID, all those things were kicked over until June. So, and that was the initial hearing. They have to have that before they have a trial.
So meanwhile, Commander Carroll drives around in a car that says code enforcement, they flag him down. You're not doing nothing on this property. We told you about this 3 months. And really, it's taken to the full level where it can be right now. And where it stands.
Well,
But
and I
now
also-
we'll look at the white.
I also think in that
Okay,
property,
thank you.
and I talked to Kelly, there's another route that might also go.
I think if the council's happy with the work that's currently happening, I think we can have a little work study to increase it, or to at least increase the efficiency of the workflow that we currently are doing amongst the workers. And we can handle that.
I think if even just to consider a clearinghouse, there's one phone number, one email address, and that's it. Everything goes through the clearinghouse, and then it gets decided, is this for the PD or is this for Brian to handle? Instead of people allowing people to do that, taking a crack at it. Well, I talked to the PD, didn't get the answer I wanted. Now I'm
Right.
calling Brian,
Yeah.
don't get the answer. Now I'm calling Tom, don't get the answer. And
Keep calling and talking when you get a different
Right.
voice. If you get the same voice, hang up and try it again.
Okay, next thing is
Well, I think
213.
the app will help with some of that because it'll focus it into a specific
Right.
location, whereas opposed to just a random crapshoot as to who calls what. I think that'll help.
We have 213th in Sheffield property,
We're going to talk about that in executive session.
Right.
so.
the dental office.
The dental office, Brian, I didn't check with Brian. He was going to call the general. All these dental places have been closed. Dr. Doreen just opened up for the first time. So I just think they're just behind them, holding up on
Mhm.
construction because of like everybody else is doing. We'll
Like
follow
of money.
up.
They have all the.
Yeah, they're
approvals
done.
to start their construction.
Purely their call.
They could sit for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Okay.
And Town Code Chapter 3, it's in the
You'll have
queue.
it by your next meeting.
Okay,
It's my fault, not Tom's. I started on it and I.
Hang on one second. Bills. Oh, no.
FAU.
Put it on my.
I have a question on that, Bill. When they wrote this back in the day, they had 100 hours. Was that including the weekends or just,
Who knows? Review stuff. Who knows?
we don't know?
I know.
Okay.
I actually, I think my deceased partner was old years ago, and I can't talk to the deceased
good move.
Is our month back. So to get the park pennies out by that June 1st, and then by that Wednesday, we would be able to get the councils out. But those first 2 days are just really hectic. Then I would have to cut off the department heads and get in their place. And I really
Yeah.
don't want to do that. I want to get them the weekend and then get it together and send them out a bit later. So we can get them on that done.
My intention is to give you a draft of the changes, so you can tell me your input. on that,
Okay.
As well as yours.
And I don't think anywhere in there it states 100 hours. I think that was math on my part, seeing as, when the code said to have it in
It was.
and when the town council meeting was. And it did go over the weekend. And so in my mind, it counted only by virtue of then for that amount of time, the town council members had the information in front of them. I don't think there's any reason to say it has to be 100 hours. I think the one thing we just want to move away from was getting stuff. If a meeting's on Thursday, getting it on all on Wednesday. I think that is probably more the spirit of what we're looking for.
I've always tried to get it out on Friday and
Yes, you
limit what comes out during the week, but like next week, I got a short week.
Yeah.
So essentially 2.5 days to get the agenda done, and who knows what'll happen. We'll get it to you. But the beauty of the email, which didn't exist back then, was I can send you stuff out and say you'll see this on Monday or something.
Right.
All right. Fairview Parking's next.
Fairview. Alan?
Well, we're getting a lot of resident complaints about the parking along there. I mean, just when you drive through there, I think we should probably just have no parking on the north side of Fairview near the residences, and then that still keeps the whole south side open. And I believe there is a sidewalk there.
South side.
Down the south side.
No, south side, you run into those trees
Yeah.
next to
Right.
Rob's, and
And
that
the one
kind of
that- the
stops.
tree
the
that fell
sidewalk
over.
stops. There is a sidewalk on the north side.
There is.
We put the sidewalk on the north side. We want to clean up the bushes and then that intersection. You got a problem. You got 2 successful businesses there.
Right.
The other additional issue was the amount of trash and garbage.
Right.
With the additional parking, there was, I seen one picture, but if you drive by, you'll see bags and cups and
Where's it coming
plastic
from?
gloves and face mask, everything else all along the parking,
Along the street, Steve? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying?
blown up
south
into
side.
the trees and
It's
bushes.
I've
blown
seen it.
into the
Yeah.
woods there.
The north side.
Oh, Lord,
Yeah.
who knows where that's.
Both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Problem.
Yeah.
It's getting to be a
More
problem.
so
You go to
on one
parking
side,
lots, you see
though.
gloves and masks laying around.
Yeah.
What's wrong with people?
Don't get me started,
Yeah,
please.
we don't have enough time.
Yeah.
What do you, I mean, what do you want to do? You want to monitor the trash? Is that, what's the complaint?
Well, the
Let's
complaint
deal
is,
with what about the parking first?
right,
Yeah,
the complaint,
Suggesting was
yeah.
I have a
stopping
problem
the
with parking.
On the north side of the street.
What the residents are complaining is there's people that park up on the grass, and when they park, they're just crossing the street anywhere, and they're afraid someone's gonna get hit. I mean, you saw the pictures, they're on the grass and parked in front of the fire
Parked on
hydrant.
fair, well, they should be
Yeah.
getting tickets if they're in front of the fire hydrant.
Right,
I mean, if you're gonna park in front of a fire hydrant, you shouldn't need a sign that says don't park there. That's
right.
just-
I think most of them are just the workers at Rob's and at
Oh, I'm sure
the,
it is.
yeah, at the restaurants and so forth.
Although there have been times around the holidays and weekends, a couple times I've had to park on Fairview and walk into the store.
Right.
But
Well, to me, that just sort of shows that there was inadequate parking for the parking lot. I'm pretty
Maybe-
sure they followed our code.
maybe
But
that's the
it's
problem.
very
Yeah.
obvious that the overflow, since the parking lot was not adequate, goes up and down in neighborhood streets.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's going to be an end to it at some point.
Well, you
or
got,
not.
I get the same complaint about the funeral home
Right.
further east that
Yes.
doesn't have enough parking to push it when you have
Mhm.
big visitations. Got the same complaint. Now, that's infrequent, but it happens, and,
Same problem at a popular restaurant
yeah.
in
Yeah.
that area.
Yeah.
Not to be
Or
named.
Summerfest.
And it definitely makes me question our zoning or the amount of parking that we're requiring. Businesses are all at different times of the day. In theory, it works out, but when you got businesses that are butting heads at the same time, it doesn't work. And in the case of this business, it's just they're doing so well that there's nothing that's going to change. They're not going to be able to keep up with that.
I mean, like some problems with the restaurants, it could be, when the development came in, it may have been the type of uses we're gonna balance, but if those uses change and you've got people going head to head at the same time.
Yeah.
That causes a problem.
Yeah.
That becomes the landlord's issue.
The parking is, requirements based upon the size of the building. And the occupancy of the building, not on the public use of the building.
So we looked at that 3 times, morning, noon, and night, when it comes to be a traffic problem. It appears the garbage is most likely coming from the open field between Jewel and Speedway.
That
There's no
field
buffer
is
between that
horrible.
huge parking lot and it blows.
Yes.
So when the grass is freshly cut, it kind of blows over to Great Lakes Drive.
Yeah.
Some of it may be coming from Rob's. I can't say yes or no, but it gets stuck up on the brush area that we believe is the town of Dyer property. on the north side of Fairview. So we can either put something up, try to put something up to blow it from there, or we can clean it up ourselves.
The north side of Fairview. On the other
South-
south
Dave's
side.
right of way, you mean?
Yeah,
I'm
Dave's
only
talking,
talking, and I'm only talking about that stuff in the north side.
We're
stuff
talking east of Rob's.
in
Is
that,
it
in
park?
that parking, but the north side of Fairway is bad too with garbage.
Hmm.
And that's that one picture that's attached here. The parking, those parking in front of hydrants, obviously if a police car sees them, they're gonna ticket them, but the customers are 15 minutes in, 15 minutes out. So a lot of this problem is quickly revolving or someone waiting for a parking spot or I think the Little Italy does send their workers that way to park on the busy nights. I don't know if they've done that since we've been on lockdown, but it definitely was prior to that. All the workers were told to park over there so they wouldn't fill up the parking lot. I would caution
park
the
in the
hydrants are on the
subdivision?
south side. I'm sorry.
you told the park in this, on Fairview
On
or in the
Fairview.
subdivision?
Not in the subdivision.
Okay.
On Fairview.
Yeah.
And it is, at dusk time, it does get really dark there around. that
Yeah, it
little
does.
split With utility box.
Yeah.
It does get
Yeah.
a little bit hinky there as far as if you got cars stacked up.
Okay,
I
last
noticed
item.
in one of the complaints, there's tents up in the parking lot, taking up parking stalls. Is that an issue that we need to be
We should
concerned?
Stop that. That's at Rob's typically on the weekends when he's having the barbecues on.
Right.
Does that coincide with the time that we're getting the complaints?
I don't know.
No.
Or are we getting complaints all the time
I think it's different
regardless?
places, different times.
Yeah,
But sometimes you go there on a Saturday, you can find a parking
Hmm.
space. Other times it's a three-ring circus looking for a space. It's just-
Say, I've never had the
Kinda like
problem.
Dave's got-
I've
yeah.
never had a problem finding parking there, but apparently.
I've had to
there's-
park once or
Yeah.
twice on Fairview.
Yeah.
And it was around a busy time,
Yeah.
or the holiday
Yeah,
time.
the
and stuff
holiday
like
year.
that. It's always a problem.
even yesterday during the middle of the day, there were no parking places.
But I went yesterday for lunch and it was, I found there was plenty of space.
Yeah,
Crapshoot.
Chief, I think you'd start to say you would caution against no parking.
The only thing I remember is that, I think he said on the north side that you would do no parking. I think the hydrants, if I'm not mistaken, are on one side. You usually want to coincide no parking with where the
Where
hydrants
the hydrants are.
And I'm not sure, according to the picture, it looks like as if they may be on. Jeff, you know what's on-
This is on the north
They're on the
side.
north side.
They're on the north side.
And that would work out good then.
The area where Dave's talking about where it collects the trash, remember that was just a wooded area before we bought it.
yeah,
And on the south side of the fence on the residential, on the north side, between the sidewalk and that fence, it's pretty unkempt in there.
right.
And it's a question if you go in there and clean that area out and do some landscaping, even if just some grass to get all the overgrown brush out. That's just the way it was left from the various stages of
Yeah.
development of that whole thing.
But I've seen Public Works out there cleaning it up
Yeah,
numerous times, trying to keep it
yeah, because that
looking
property is
decent.
just in the right of way.
Right,
And we've worked with the homeowner association a couple times. They don't believe that fence was there. They believe that since we acquired the land, that fence was, so we've kind of, it's a dilapidated fence.
We never put it up.
I know we didn't put it up, but we acquired that land since, I don't know if it was part of that or not. So we're kind of cleaning it up on our own.
Well, we
taking
can
care
take
of
the
some-
fence down if you want.
yeah,
Probably won't like that.
yep. You're right. Last item is the comp plan. Next meeting is July 29th.
Yeah, that'll be the meeting with the internal group, if you will.
Yes,
And then we'll schedule, you'll get the stuff tomorrow if you haven't gotten it today, but Doreen just sent in the Dropbox, you'll get all the stuff, the documents, about 60-some pages for the 29th. She'll go through everything internally with our working groups that we've had. And then we'll set up for the public forum. We're still trying to figure out how to do that, given all the circumstances.
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff.
So do we have no resolution on the parking situation that we just abruptly moved on from?
well, if you want to,
I'm just,
no parking on one side or,
I'd like to see us move towards no parking on the north side of Fairview between, what is that, Georgia?
west of Georgia.
yeah, but then
east of
people are
Great
going to be
Lakes.
parking in the residential area. That's what's going to happen.
You almost might want to go over the north wind, not the north side, or what's the first one there.
Northwest is about where the storage unit place is. Well, you could always try it and see what happens. Why don't you keep an eye on it? And we'll come back to
Yeah,
you in a couple
I would
weeks.
rather do that because,
And we'll take a look at where the debris is. Because if you're gonna put parking on the south side, do you want a sidewalk there?
Yeah,
Right.
I thought,
That's the problem.
I'd-
right.
There is no
I'd be,
walk.
I'd be fearful to put no parking where the only part where there is a sidewalk. To me, the debris, I agree with Chief, that's probably coming from the massive parking lot at Jewel.
That's could
no,
be.
I'm sure.
In the 30 seconds it takes someone to get out of their car to walk into Rob's, I doubt they're throwing garbage out.
Well,
I agree with
you got McDonald's and Taco Bell there,
Yeah.
and that, when I look at all the debris that's in that field over the winter, that's who it's coming from.
So the debris isn't as much, that's a separate issue.
Right.
The parking is.
Yeah.
To me, it's monitor that, and I don't know how.
We'll take a look at it. We'll keep an eye on it and stuff like that, different times during the days. Have the guys look at it. 'Cause
Okay.
Can we send a
Rob's-
group out there to clean up the garbage at least?
Yeah, Public Works will look at the
Okay.
debris, so we'll start to see where it's coming from, but
East and west of Rob's?
we'll
The
go
biggest
on
it's
on
from
the right
Rob's.
away, but I don't want to be going on the private property.
The
I think
biggest
we gotta-
complaint of the garbage from the contacts I got was east of Rob's on Fairview, all the way up to that first street
It's-
and a little bit past it.
Yeah,
That-
the question is, where's it coming? from?
Yeah,
Right.
it's coming from
But that's
McDonald's
on
and
that
Taco
street.
Then
Bell.
you got the building.
Yeah.
Hard for you to convince me that all that blew all the way across, it blew all through Rob's building and parking
It does.
lots down
Came
the
from.
street.
Yeah.
And then it's blowing south into the brush and woods. It doesn't make sense. to me. But at
Survey the
very least,
garbage.
Let's see if the town of Dyer can get out there and help clean it up.
The property west of Great Lakes Drive is, who owns that property? Right now, we got that
Oh,
retention pond.
West, I don't know the name, I don't know off the top of my head. We'll have to
I'd
find
just be
that out.
curious if
China
a
before,
snow
but I don't
fence or
know if it's
something,
still
we would know if there was a snow fence there, if it's gathering a bunch of debris, then we know
Yeah.
where it's coming from.
It's not that big of an area.
But
All right, let us take a look at it. I came up rather late. Take a look.
Any other discussion? And we will move upstairs to the executive session.
We could do it right here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody
Right.
leave.
everyone gotta get out.
Yeah.
We gotta turn the electronics off. See you, Al.